Most veterans don't lose their benefits in court. They don't lose them in battle. They lose them quietly on paper. One deadline, one overlooked decision letter, one misstep. And just like that, years of medical evidence, retroactive pay, and hard-earned compensation vanish. Nobody talks about this part because it doesn't make headlines. It's not dramatic. It's just a date on a form. And missing it has silently wrecked the lives of thousands of veterans who thought they were doing everything right. You think you've got time. The VA sends your decision, and you figure you'll appeal when you're ready. Maybe next month. Maybe after you talk to someone. But what you don't realize is that the countdown has already started, and once that clock hits zero, there's no warning, no grace period, just a closed case file, and a future that could have looked very different. In this video, I'm going to break down exactly why this one deadline has destroyed more VA claims than almost anything else, how it works, and what you can do right now to make sure it doesn't happen to you or someone you care about. Because the system isn't going to remind you, it's waiting for you to forget. Most veterans think the fight ends once they file the claim. They assume that the VA responds, whether with approval or denial. They can always come back and fix it later. But here's what almost nobody realizes. The moment that decision arrives, a hidden countdown begins. And if you don't act within exactly 1 year, that window slams shut. Permanently. This isn't a suggested timeline. It's not flexible. It's federal. You have 365 days from the date on your decision letter to do one of three things. File a supplemental claim with new evidence, request a higher level review, or file an appeal to the board. That's it. Miss that deadline, and the VA considers your claim dead, no matter how valid it was. And here's the part that really stings. The VA doesn't explain this clearly. Sure, the information's there, buried in legal jargon at the bottom of your decision letter, usually written in a way that doesn't feel urgent. It doesn't say, you must act within 1 year or you lose your benefits. It says something like, you may file a notice of disagreement within 1 year of the date of this letter. It sounds optional. It's not. Most veterans don't find out what they missed until it's too late. Maybe they were waiting on more paperwork. Maybe they were hoping to talk to a VSO. Maybe they just didn't understand the options. But once the deadline passes, everything changes. You don't get to pick up where you left off. You start over. And the months or years you already waited, gone. This rule has been part of the system for years. But since the VA introduced its new decision review framework in 2019, it's become even more confusing. Veterans now have multiple appeal options, but all of them are tied to that same ticking clock. And if you don't know what each option means or when to use it, it's easy to freeze. And freezing, in this case, can cost you everything. But missing the deadline isn't just a paperwork problem. It changes the entire outcome of your claim and your future. When you miss that 1 year deadline, you don't just lose your place in line, you lose the entire line. The VA doesn't put your claim on pause. They don't keep your records warm for when you're ready to return. Instead, they treat it like it never existed. And if you want to try again, you're forced to start over from the very beginning. That means no credit for the time you waited, no back pay for the months or even years you were fighting, no automatic reconsideration of the evidence you already submitted. You're filing a brand new claim, as if you'd never spoken to the VA before. And that's a nightmare, especially if your case was strong the first time. Here's the part that really burns. You could have been owed thousands, sometimes tens of thousands, in retroactive pay. But once that deadline passes, the clock resets. Even if you reapply and eventually win, the VA will only pay you starting from the date of your new claim, not the original one you lost to silence. And that mistake, it's unrecoverable. Think about that. You did the exams. You gathered the records. You pushed through the red tape. You got the denial or the lowball rating. And then, because you missed a single date on a piece of paper, you lose years of effort and earnings in one move. And this isn't rare. It happens every day. Veterans miss the deadline by a week, a month, sometimes just a few days. Doesn't matter. The VA doesn't budge. And when you try to fight it, they don't see a delay. They see a closed case. That's why understanding this system isn't optional. It's survival. Because once you miss that deadline, no one's going to offer to rewind the clock. And the only thing waiting on the other side of it is a restart button you never wanted to press. You'd think for something this serious, the VA would at least send a reminder, a letter, a call, an email, something to say, hey, just a heads up, your appeal window's about to close. But they don't, and they never have. That decision letter you got, that was your one and only notice. Buried in the fine print, hidden behind polite language and complex terms, is a quiet time bomb. 12 months to act or lose everything. And once that letter is sent, the VA checks a box and moves on. No follow-up, no countdown, no second chance. Most people don't even realize the clock has started, especially if it's their first time dealing with the system. They assume someone will walk them through it. They figure they'll get help when they need it. Or worse, they think the process is automatic, like the VA will take a second look on their own. They won't. That silence isn't a glitch. It's how the system works. And in that silence, thousands of veterans miss their window simply because they didn't know they had one. The VA doesn't make phone calls reminding you to protect your benefits. They don't flag your file with a red alert saying veteran has 30 days left. They let the days run out quietly. And once they do, the only thing you'll get is a form rejection saying your appeal was filed too late. This isn't about neglect. It's design. The system runs on rules, not empathy. And the responsibility is entirely on you. So if you're waiting for better timing, for more paperwork, for a second opinion, you need to understand the VA is not waiting with you. The deadline moves forward with or without your permission. And if you're not paying attention, it will pass by in silence and take your benefits with it. This isn't just theory. It's real, and it's happening to thousands of veterans every single year. Not because they were careless, not because they didn't deserve the benefits, but because they assumed they had more time. And by the time they figured out the truth, the damage was already done. There's a Marine who waited to gather more medical records, thinking it was better to build a stronger appeal. He planned to file in a few weeks, but life got in the way. Work, family, then a few months passed, then a year. When he finally submitted the appeal, it was rejected. Too late. His only option? Start over from zero and lose 3 years of back pay. Or the Army veteran who didn't understand what a supplemental claim even meant. She figured the VA would let her know if something was missing, but they didn't. Her original claim had solid evidence, but no one ever explained the options. When she came back months later, the door had already closed. These aren't isolated mistakes. Since 2019, when the VA shifted to the new decision review process, advocacy groups have reported that tens of thousands of veterans have been tripped up by the same issue. No one told them the clock was ticking. The system is complicated. The terminology is dense. And most veterans are trying to navigate alone, often while managing physical pain, PTSD, or other service-connected challenges. So when a denial letter shows up, it's easy to feel overwhelmed, or just set it aside for later. But in this case, later is where everything falls apart. And the saddest part? A simple form could have changed everything. One supplemental claim, one higher-level review, one conversation with the right advocate could have kept the claim alive. But without that, the claim dies quietly, and the benefits go with it. Missing that one deadline doesn't just delay your claim. It can destroy everything tied to your benefits, your monthly compensation, your health coverage, your access to life-altering programs. Because when the claim resets, so does everything you were entitled to. Let's say your original claim could have gotten you a 70% rating. That's over $1,800 a month, tax-free, plus access to VA health care, priority for housing programs, possible caregiver support, even benefits for your dependents. But missed the deadline, and now you're reapplying, starting over, hoping the VA even agrees to reopen the file. And if they do, your new effective date is the day you filed again, not the original one. That means you lose all those months or years of missed payments. That's not just inconvenient. That's life-altering money. Money that could have paid for medications, rent, gas, groceries. Money you were legally owed, now wiped away because you didn't know the rules. And it gets worse. If your health is declining, Missing that window can delay care you urgently need. If you've lost work or your condition worsens, every day without benefits puts more pressure on your family, your mental health, and your future. For some veterans, it's the difference between stability and survival. The truth is, the system doesn't care how close you were to filing. It doesn't care why you waited. You could have had every document ready. You could have been 10 days late. Doesn't matter. Missed the 1-year mark, and your compensation disappears like it was never there. And once that's gone, there's no simple way to get it back. You can't just explain your way out of it. You can't ask the VA to make an exception. The door doesn't just close, it locks. If there's one thing that can stop this entire disaster before it starts, it's this: VA Form 20-0995, the supplemental claim form. It's not flashy, it's not complicated, but it might be the most powerful piece of paper a veteran can file within that 1-year deadline. Here's how it works. Let's say you got denied, or maybe the rating was lower than you expected. You don't have to start over. You don't even have to file a full new claim. You can submit a supplemental claim, as long as you do it within 1 year of the VA's decision date, and your original effective date is protected. That means no lost time, no lost pay, no starting from scratch. But there's a catch. A supplemental claim needs new and relevant evidence. That doesn't mean you need a brand new diagnosis. It could be a medical opinion, a statement from a doctor, records from a civilian provider, even a buddy letter describing how your condition has worsened. If it adds value to your case, it counts. And if you don't have new evidence, or you think the VA flat out misjudged your case, you can also file for a higher level review using VA Form 20-0996. That sends your claim to a more experienced reviewer, someone who can re-examine the original decision without needing new paperwork. Still within that same 1-year window. Still keeps your effective date. Then there's a third option. Appeal directly to the Board of Veterans' Appeals. That route takes longer, but it's powerful, especially if you want a hearing or believe your case deserves more formal attention. But again, the key is acting within that 12-month deadline. Too many veterans sit on a bad decision because they're confused about which form to use, or they wait to gather the perfect set of records. But in reality, the perfect claim isn't what saves you. The timely one does. So if you're unsure what to do, here's the truth. Filing something is better than filing nothing. Submitting even one of these forms preserves your rights, your timeline, and your access to every benefit you've earned. Because once the clock hits day 366, there's no form that can undo the silence. You'd be surprised how easy it is to lose something you earned through years of sacrifice, just because you miss a deadline no one warned you about. Not because you didn't care, not because you weren't paying attention, but because the system was built to keep things moving quietly, even when your future depends on what happens next. This isn't just about forms and timelines. It's about your right to be seen, heard, and properly compensated. It's about making sure the benefits you fought for aren't erased by a silent clock ticking in the background. If you've been sitting on a decision letter, don't wait another day. Check the date, start the countdown, and take action before the window closes. Whether it's a supplemental claim, a higher level review, or an appeal, do something to protect what's already yours. And if you've already missed that deadline, don't give up. You might still be able to reopen your case, but it will take more effort, and you'll likely lose out on everything you had built up. That's why the first deadline is the most important one. You don't need to have all the answers right now, but you do need to move. Reach out to a VSO, ask questions, file the form, because doing nothing is exactly what the system is counting on. If this video helped you see the process more clearly, or gave you the push you needed, let us know in the comments. Share what you learned. And if there's someone in your life who's struggling with a VA claim, pass this along. It might be exactly what they need to hear before it's too late. And if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button and turn on the bell so you don't miss future videos that break the system down and help you get what you've earned. Your support helps us keep making the content veterans actually need, not just what looks good on paper. Thanks for watching, and stay sharp. The system only works if you know how to fight back.